In the heart of the vast grasslands of the Serengeti Reserve in Tanzania, there once lived a lion whose name was whispered in awe by all who ventured through these lands. His mane, thick and proud, had been a symbol of strength and dominance, and his roaring glares from the top of the rocky outcrops kept the herds and rivals at bay. This lion, now a legend, had earned his place as the undisputed king of the Serengeti. His battles were countless, his victories unmatched, and his presence undeniable. His most iconic battle was with a massive buffalo, which had left a long scar across his forehead, a trophy marking his victory and a warning to those who dared challenge him. In his prime, the lion ruled with fierce determination. He led his pride through the lush savanna, hunting down the largest herds of wildebeests, gazelles, and the mighty buffalo. The other lions of his pride revered him, and even the young lions would not dare challenge his leadership. His roar echoed through the valley, a sound that could send shivers down the spine of anyone who heard it. To the local people and tourists alike, he was not just a lion. He was a symbol of power, a living legend that brought them closer to the rawness of nature. But time, as it does with all things, eventually took its toll. The lion grew older, and his once boundless energy began to fade. His mighty legs, once capable of sprinting across the savanna with ease, became sluggish and tired. His golden mane, once a symbol of strength, began to thin, revealing patches of dark, weathered skin. The young lions of the pride, now in their prime, gradually began to take over leadership. The lion, now weary from years of ruling, made the decision to step aside. He left his pride behind, retreating to the edges of the reserve, seeking solitude in the twilight of his life. Each morning, he gazed towards the rising sun, a silent reflection of his glorious past. The savanna, which once felt like his kingdom, now seemed like an endless sea of grass, a reminder of his fading youth. He no longer hunted, his once keen senses dulled by age. The farmers living on the outskirts of the reserve grew accustomed to seeing him wander by, his form thinner and more fragile than before. Despite his decline, the villagers still spoke of him with respect. Occasionally, they would leave scraps of meat near the fence, offering him sustenance out of gratitude for his past glory. The lion accepted their kindness without a growl or a snarl, merely walking over to consume the food and leave quietly afterward. One particularly hot afternoon, after nearly a week without food, the lion found himself exhausted, his body almost beyond its limits. His stomach was empty, and his throat dry. Every step was a struggle. The savanna, once his mighty stage, now felt like a hostile arena, each step a battle for survival. As he wandered, he stumbled upon a small puddle of mud, shaded by a lone tree. Desperate for relief from the sweltering heat, the lion staggered towards it. He lowered his tired body into the cool, damp earth, hoping for a moment of respite. The weight of exhaustion overcame him, and he soon drifted into a deep sleep, a sleep so profound that he didn't notice how the sun blazed down upon the land, drying the mud around him. When the lion awoke, the puddle had turned into a trap. His body, now weakened and heavy with exhaustion, was stuck in the drying mud. Every movement felt like an effort beyond his strength. A soft groan escaped his throat, carried away by the wind that whispered across the dry grassland. In the distance, a group of farmers heard the faint sound and paused their work. Something about the noise intrigued them. It sounded like a lion's roar, but it was different, weak, almost pitiful. They decided to investigate. What they found was a sight that shocked them to their core. The mighty lion, who had once ruled these lands, was now trapped in the mud, unable to free himself. His eyes, once fierce and filled with power, were dull and weary. He didn't growl or lash out at them, only lay there, his body drained and exhausted. The farmers exchanged nervous glances, but despite their fear, they couldn't just leave him there. This was the lion they had heard stories about, the king who had once commanded the respect of all creatures. They knew they had to help. The three farmers, despite their fear of approaching a trapped lion, quickly sprang into action. They used long ropes and wooden stakes to try and pull the lion free, but the thick mud clung to his body, making every attempt a struggle. Each pull seemed futile as the mud sucked at the lion's form, slowing their progress. Sweat poured down their faces as they worked in unison, their muscles straining with the effort. But they were not about to give up. Not with the life of a legend hanging in the balance. Minutes turned into hours, and the sun continued its relentless heat, beating down on them. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the lion's body was free from the mud, but he remained motionless, lying on the sun-baked earth. His breathing was shallow, and his body was too weak to rise. The farmers, now exhausted and unsure what to do next, looked at each other with concern. They knew they couldn't leave him like this. One of the farmers, who had heard of a wildlife conservation expert named Elias, pulled out his phone and dialed for help. Within minutes, a truck arrived, driven by Elias, a conservationist who had spent years working with the wildlife in the area. He had been tracking the old lion for some time, admiring his resilience despite his age. Elias rushed to the lion's side, assessing the situation. He found that the lion wasn't badly injured, but was severely dehydrated and malnourished. His condition was dire, but there was hope. Elias reassured the farmers that with proper care and rest, the lion could survive. Elias opened his medical kit and began administering fluids to the lion, injecting him with a special medication to support his health. As the minutes passed, the lion's breathing became more even, and a slight flicker of movement appeared in his eyes. Elias instructed the farmers to step back, giving the lion some space to recover. The group watched in silence, their hearts heavy with the weight of what they had just witnessed. After about 10 minutes, the lion's head lifted slightly, and he blinked his eyes a few times. Elias checked his pulse, nodding in relief. The lion was slowly stabilizing. Knowing that the lion needed food to regain his strength, Elias took some meat from the truck and placed it a few feet away from the lion. Slowly, the old lion sniffed the air and cautiously moved toward the meat. His legs trembled as he stood, but he managed to take a few small bites, chewing slowly as if savoring the food. The farmers exhaled in relief. They had done it. They had saved the lion. Elias smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning of the lion's recovery. He told the farmers that they would continue to monitor the lion's health over the coming days. If necessary, they would move him to a safer area with better access to food and water. The farmers nodded, grateful for the chance to help preserve a living legend. As the sun began to set, the old lion looked up at the farmers, his deep, weary eyes filled with gratitude. His once majestic mane was now tattered, but his dignity as a king remained intact. Slowly, he turned and walked away, his steps unsteady but determined. The farmers watched him disappear into the distance, knowing that they had just witnessed something extraordinary. The lion was not just an animal, he was a symbol of endurance, of the resilience that nature so often demands. The news of the lion's rescue spread quickly throughout the reserve, and the story of the farmer's bravery warmed the hearts of all who heard it. Some chuckled at the lion's timid approach to the meat, but all agreed on one thing. Even in his old age, he was still the king of the Serengeti. The days that followed saw the lion slowly regaining his strength, and as he wandered through the vast grasslands once more, it was clear that his story was far from over.